Let's talk about the PS5 then, I guess. Hey guys, how you doing? My name is CODENAMEBIGBEAR, or Stuart, if you want to call me by my first name. Welcome to the Bear's Den. Today we're going to be talking about the PS5. I mentioned last week that I've had one for a few weeks now, and I feel it's probably about time I at least give my opinion on it, and, you know, elaborate on the things I mentioned last week, I suppose. But first off, you know, the PS5 itself is actually, just straight up, it is a good console. It's definitely worth looking at, but I would say maybe wait until a few more games have come out. If you can, don't desperately get one. The only reason I got one and my girlfriend picked it up is because our PS4 had died, and obviously I do need the PS4 for what I do here on the Bear's Den and within respawning, and it made sense to get the PS5 beforehand. And obviously, yes, I did that whole video where I was very angry about PlayStation, and I still am, to be honest. I mean, the fact people can't get this console is just kind of ridiculous, to be fair. First thing I noticed about this thing, it is flipping huge. Like, people complained about the size of the Xbox One back in the day. This thing is so much bigger. It's about that much. Me showing you that doesn't really mean anything to you, but it's about an inch taller, easy, and then about 2 inches wider as well. I'll put a picture up. Probably there. You can see it in comparison. But it is absolutely massive. I've got it sideways under my TV because, well, it fits under my TV. But I know people that have problems with that, just not fitting under the TV and having to have it next to the television. And for some people, that's fine. Others, the aesthetic is just completely, you know, off. I mean, my setup at home is everything's underneath the television, barring the Switch. The only reason the Switch isn't is because it's behind the TV, so I can slot it in and out all the time. And it's just kind of hidden. But if I had the Xbox One, Series X, and the PS5, I don't have the Series X, by the way, but if I had those out and on display, it would look really naff. I'm not a big fan of consoles being on display in that fashion. I'd rather them just kind of be under the TV. But yeah, it's absolutely massive. It's huge. It does look quite cool and really space age, but it would be nicer if it was just a little bit smaller. I mean, like I said, the Xbox One was huge to begin with, and you know, I struggled to find places for that to go. So, you know, it's one of those. If, again, look at the comparison, you'll see the difference. If you complain about the Xbox One being huge and you want a PS5, then maybe you should think about how you complain about the Xbox One, because I've had people do this, and honestly, it's just kind of a bit of hypocrisy. Anyway, back to the console a bit. Well, back to a different part of the console. That controller. Oh, yes. Do you know what? I hate PlayStation controllers. I really do. I'm not a fan of them. It's one of the reasons why I barely touched the PlayStation in the last generation, and one of the reasons why I kind of only halfway really played with the PS3. I just can't get along with the controllers at all. That kind of standard PlayStation style. I always found the sticks in the wrong place. I found it quite uncomfortable. But the way the PS5's controller has been constructed and made, actually just, it's a very comfortable controller to hold. Everything about it's really nice in the hand. It feels good. The buttons have a decent click. The D-pad has a decent, you know, you can really feel what's going on without having to look at what you're going at. Look at the controller whilst you're playing, sorry. And the sticks, I believe they've been slightly adjusted. They're further apart, slightly higher up on the controller, and they definitely feel way more comfortable and more kind of a natural resting place for your thumbs. And I still prefer the Xbox version of it, personally, but that's just me in general. That touchpad doesn't seem nearly as intrusive as the PS4 DualShock controller, mainly because I think that the PS5 one is just that much bigger, and you know, it's further away, so you're not constantly trying to, you know, you're not either hitting it all the time. You can directly hit that button. Though I do keep trying to press it for start, but that's just me. I'm rubbish, and I always think it's a different button. But having that button essentially be the start button now, yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, why not? And the touchpad is quite cool, especially using it on certain games like what's that name? That Robo game. I don't know. I'm rubbish with names and things, so yeah, this game up here. But then you have the special features with the controller. And this is where it kind of shines. Now, as I said before, some of these features have been used by Nintendo before, and people kind of forgotten about that, and it's a bit of a shame because I think Nintendo did a really great job with both of these separate features on their separate consoles. One being the speaker that was in the Wii controllers, and I think it was also used for the Wii U as well, but then they dropped it for the Switch. But the speaker was always good. I actually always loved that kind of immersiveness, especially when I was being Link and swinging my sword, and you could hear it kind of cut through the grass. That was really cool. But obviously, back then, the technology was still relatively new. Nintendo didn't really know what they were doing with it. And PlayStation, I'm assuming, have gone, well, we know what we can do with it, and we can make this nice and immersive. So I've been playing Abe's Odyssey Soulstorm. Abe's Exodus Soulstorm. I've been playing Soulstorm. Oddworld Soulstorm, there you go. And the first time I played it was the first time anything kind of came through the controller. Barring the Robo Chibi rat, I don't even know what he's called. Astrolab, that's the one. Astrobot, there he is. Oh, every time. But barring like Astrobot, there wasn't really much coming through the controller. And when I hit the left trigger to have Abe chant, and it came through, that was really cool. It was a really great experience. And having kind of those little bits come through, and it really makes the game very, very immersive. There's also a rumor, again, I haven't played Zombie Army 4, but apparently if you pause the game and you leave it sat there for a minute, it starts to talk to you. You get whispers coming through the controller, which again gives that immersion, makes it kind of makes it like to feel like people actually thought about using this controller and using all of its bits. And I think that's a really cool idea. I really hope it continues on, because I remember with the Wii, in later games, it didn't really people just stopped using it. And it's almost like with the touchpad almost came obsolete. I mean, yes, it still got used, but it wasn't used in the intention that everyone thought it would be used. So I just hope it gets used more. I really do. And then there's those triggers. Oh, I really, really enjoy those triggers, but I also really hate them at the same time. So the triggers, basically like haptic triggers or something else, I think that's what it's called. But basically, if you're shooting a gun, you can hold it and you can feel the trigger fighting back on your finger, like it would with a real gun, I suppose. I've never fired a real gun, so I don't really know. But kind of like it would, how I imagine it would. And once that clip empties, it just chunks down, and you've got no resistance from it. So when you're playing a Spider-Man, which is where I've been kind of doing it, using those triggers, you can feel like when you're using your webs, you can feel the tension on that as well. But the problem with this is that I like to swing as often as I can throughout the game, and instead of just holding R2, which is fine, I just kind of constantly tapping it. I don't mean to do it, I just kind of do it, and having to press that a little bit extra on the trigger, it starts to hurt my finger after a while. And that's the same with any other games I'm playing that's been using it as well. It does start to hurt after a while. I imagine you just get a really buff finger at the end of it, but you won't. That's not how muscles work in the hand. But there's just lots of amazing stuff with the triggers, but also, yeah, I can definitely see them being a problem in the future. And again, with Mikey reporting that his right trigger seemed to lose some of that pushback and some of that luster again because he's constantly having to press harder on it. We don't know. Obviously, I'm going to have to see in the future. But there was a major issue I had with the controller, and that was interference. So, as I mentioned, I used my PS4 hard drive to give myself some extra space on the console itself, which, again, is a problem not having that much space. You will need an external hard drive, or just use it solely for PS5 games. You add PS4, you're just going to eat through all your memory and not be able to play any PS5 games. But using that extra hard drive, I had it sat on top of the console, just over the disk tray, essentially, because it just made sense for me to just put it there, and that really interfered with the pad. It meant if I was just running and I let go, the character will still run for a bit. If I was just kind of looking left or right and then I let go, the camera will still spin, or it wouldn't take the webs, or the buttons wouldn't work, or I wouldn't hit, or nothing would happen, especially when playing Spider-Man. Nothing just would happen. My other half, she had problems with Astrobot. Again, saying that the pad is not interacting. And the same with Medieval, it's just not doing certain things. She had to kind of throw it up in the air almost, just so it kind of caught some signal and worked again. It was really weird. I mean, that sounds a bit bizarre, but basically, we found if we just moved it up a bit, it would just kind of sort itself out, and playing up here nothing would happen, but play it a little bit lower down, and it just wouldn't, the signal wouldn't work. I don't know why that is. But then I moved that hard drive to the side and put it next to the console instead, and all of a sudden everything's kind of working perfectly again. Yeah, so there's a few experience issues, which I don't think should be a thing, especially in this brand new, very expensive console. Yeah, having a tiny thing like, it's literally this big, this hard drive, it's tiny. It just kind of sits on top of the console, and that's interfering with the Bluetooth signal. Why is that? Why? Very, very silly. So I haven't really played that many PS5 games. I've only got a couple myself. I've got the Abe's Odyssey Soulstorm, and I've got, what is the other one I've got? Oh, the Astrobot game. That's there for sure. But then, yeah, I've got PS4 games that have been upgraded to the PS5 versions. The Marvel's Avengers, I've got the PS5 version of that. I have to replay the entire game whilst my game save due to my PS4 wiping everything, essentially. But it does mean I do get the, it just means I get to play through it again and, give that a go. And I really want to give Avengers a go because I just, so disappointing. So I'm hoping my second playthrough is actually going to be improved. I really hope it is improved, especially with the better graphics, or the better ability for graphics, or better frame rates, or whatever it is the PS5 version is doing. Because I had a little comparison, because you had to install the PS4 version to install the PS5 version, which is flipping annoying, because that's like 100 odd gig on there as well. Yeah, so there's a few things here and there as well. But when it comes to the games, I do have PS5 versions of games that I already own. So I had Assassin's Creed Valhalla, which is just before Christmas. Just literally, that's how I discovered my PS4 died, is when trying to put that one on. And I got a PS5 version of that now. So I've never experienced the PS4 version. I'm just going to experience the PS5 version, which is very, very nice. I've got my personal favourite game of the year for 2020, Maneater, comes with a free upgrade to PS5 as well. And of course I played that because that game is amazing. If you haven't played Maneater, play that game. It's so good. And yeah, if you got a PS4 version and you get a PS5, yes, just upgrade it, have fun with it. It's like 10 gig or something stupid. It's nothing in the extra side of things when you have the disc, at least, anyway. I think it's like 40 otherwise. And then you get these free upgrades, which is really, really fantastic, having these free upgrades to the PS5 versions of these games. I do have Final Fantasy VII, because I got that in the last 3 days of PS Plus last month. Because I joined just then, and that's roughly when I got the console. So I got Final Fantasy VII, but I need if I was going to do the PS5 version, I had to pay an extra like 16 quid or something like this. And if I wanted the PS5 version of Control, I would have to pay 30 odd quid or 19 quid or whatever, which, to be honest, I'm not really willing to do if I've already got the game and they want me to just kind of pay to upgrade when other games are literally giving it away for free. I would rather they just give it away for free. But hey, companies got to make their money, I suppose. But yeah, so you got some options there when you do it. Not all your PS4 games are going to be the PS4 versions. At least that's what I'm saying anyway. That's what PlayStation is saying anyway. So overall, yeah, so the console itself, yeah, it's a really decent console. It kind of just feels like an upgraded PS4, especially with that controller. The controller is honestly the most exciting thing about the entire console itself. Graphically, there's some really, really lovely things going on. As frame rates really help make things kind of pop. I don't have HDR, so I can't play with that yet. Eventually, I will get HDR TV, and I can really, really have a look at these graphics and kind of see how these ray tracing going on and make it look amazing and compare that. And I'm really, really excited to do that at some point. Obviously, I can play these new games, and I'm going to be playing new games for people. Like, I can play my VR, and I can play, Resident Evil 7 for the first time, which is going to be really fun. I'm going to be doing that on VR, so, wish me luck, and hopefully I don't die. Yeah, but it is a good console. It is definitely worth looking at. But would I say rush out and get one? If you don't need it, if you've still got PS4, stick with it for now. Don't rush out and get yourself a PS4. It's not quite worth it. There's not any major exclusives coming out. We got Returnal coming out very soon, which looks incredible. You obviously got Oddworld, which is, again, really, really great game. You have Astro, which comes downloaded onto the console, which is fantastic. It reminds me of the old Master System days when you had a game just on the console, which is nice. Not many consoles do that, and they should do that more often. Xbox did it with Hexic, I think, with a puzzle game, but that wasn't a very, it was a puzzle game. So again, don't rush out. Don't feel you need a PS5 right now. It's not massively worth it. It is a fantastic console. It is really good. I'm very glad I have one. That controller, like I said, is exceptional. It's really, really lovely. And I'm playing an Xbox One game afterwards. I felt a bit like, it's not really here. The HD Rumble isn't there anymore. And playing the Switch, and so you can really feel the weakness compared to the Switch. The weakness of the Switch HD Rumble compared to the PlayStation 1. So there's checks and balances here. If you're still more excited, if you want more games than anything else, you've got the Xbox One Series X, and if you get the Game Pass, you've got hundreds of games that you can just play. Straight up, just play. And with Xbox Pass Ultimate, you get Xbox Live Gold, and you can play online with friends. And I believe Xbox has just actually cancelled that kind of payment system. You don't need Gold to play online anymore, which is brilliant. Every console should be doing it anyway. PlayStation did it back in the day, and then they put a paywall up on it. Xbox has always kind of made you pay for that, which it shouldn't have done. But hey, they've gone back on themselves, which fine. They might be a bit desperate to get some sales when no one's talking about the Series X at all, which again is something I don't really understand. Why are people not talking about the Series X? The Series X is the most powerful console there is. Like, way more than the PlayStation. I say way more, but it's more powerful than the PlayStation 5. And, that was one of the major things for the last generation between the PS4 and the Xbox One, is the PS4 was the most powerful console. And, you're a fool for not having the most powerful console. But then the Xbox came out with the Xbox One X and went, here we go. And people just don't talk about how powerful the console is anymore. I think that might be saying more about PlayStation fans than anything else. I don't really know. Anyway, I think I've rambled on way too much. I mean, that's 18 odd minutes I've just filmed. Overall, don't rush out to get a PlayStation. It's not necessary just now. And as I said this from the beginning, next generation consoles always come out. Never rush out. The only reason I did is because I just kind of needed it. And we lucked out. We really lucked out the fact that my other half was at work at 4 a.m, not doing anything. A notification came through. She was just able to buy one then and there. Other than that, we wouldn't have one until now. PlayStation 5. Is it worth it? Not yet. Guys, have yourself a nice day. And don't forget to be nice to each other, yeah?